Hello and welcome back to the Across the Pod NFL podcast. I am, as ever, your host, Andy Davis, here to preview Week 18 in the NFL, the final week of the 2024 regular season. With me today, I've got two guests on the show. First of all, we've got a returning guest who was on last year for our Buccaneers-Eagles wildcard round preview. Back for today is Buccaneers fan Ross. Ross, how are things?
Not too bad. How's yourself?
Yeah, all good. Yeah, can't complain.
Hopefully
to...
returning's a good sign. Came on last year, beat the Eagles. Hopefully
That
come
is
on,
true.
get the Saints win.
That is true. Yeah, it's so far one episode so far you've been on the show and one win. So far you got a 1-0 record. So yeah, you'll be hoping it continues in week 18.
Absolutely.
So my other guest is actually making his debut on the show. He is a big part of the Atlanta Falcons UK. With us today is Falcons fan Danny Foulkes. Danny, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you, mate. Thank you for having me. Personally, I'm very good. Falcons-wise, a little bit less so, but other than that, brilliant.
Well, you are, of course, you mentioned a Falcons fan, and I wanted to get you both on because I wanted to have a little bit of rivalry going into the final week, having fans of both teams who've got something to play for. And, of course, Danny, you are a first time on the show. We like to ask all of our new guests the same sort of questions, and one of them is why you support the team you do. So, Danny, tell us, why are you a Falcons fan?
I really wish this was a little bit more romantic than it really is. But as with a lot of British fans, didn't really have any alliances to any state or area or anything, and kind of just took a gamble on the players that I fell in love with, which ultimately ended up being at the time Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, and Austin Hooper, this is year 6 for me now. So I'm, compared to a lot of fans, I'm reasonably new to the sport. I've not seen a lot of good, but I'm in it for the long haul now. So I've committed myself nice and early.
And you said they're only into year 6, but you've had something very recently that not many fans who've been fans for 20 years have had. You got some sideline access recently at a Falcons game in Atlanta. Tell the audience about what that experience was like.
Yes, so we've been rather fortunate when myself and my friend Cal set up ATL Falcons UK. There didn't seem to be too much of a platform for Falcons fans in the UK, probably based on the fact that there's about 10 of us. So we set up ATL Falcons UK, and since then it's just gone from strength to strength. So we've ended up with, on all the social medias, doing podcasts every single week, and that's ultimately resulted in us making a lot of friends over the pond. So this year, for the first time, we flew out to Atlanta. We got pitch side prior to the game, which was a ridiculous experience that I can't even put into words well enough to justify it. But no, it's been brilliant. We've made so many friends over there already. And like I said, this is just the beginning. It's not a team that people are going to run towards with joy. But if you're in it for a ride, then I'd choose the Falcons any day of the week.
Interesting. I love it. And of course, a new quarterback now could be bright stuff in the future. Now, before we carry on, if you are missing DraftKings UK, head over to fantasygameday.app and use the code Andy5 for your chance at money back on your first paid lineup. And of course, we had our Week 17 preview, which had Dan Toomey on the show, our Cleveland Browns fan. He had 12 correct scores. I had 9. So as it stands at the moment, I am still both the leader and also last place in our predictions leaderboard. So as it stands right now, it didn't happen last year. I've got the 3 best prediction scores this season from week 13, where I got all 16 right, and then week 6 to 9. Other than that, Dan got 12. He's actually our second best performing guest on the show, with Olivia also on 12 from her predictions back in week 6. And then right at the bottom, I'm not the only one who's bottom of the leaderboard. I am tied with Luke Campbell. We both got 6 correct scores in week 3. And then the likes of Steve McGuinness also had 7 correct scores on the same week. So, at the moment, that is the marker to beat. The 16, when we can get the same. You can level the scores because there are 16 games. You can potentially try and level the proceedings, or you could potentially be right at the bottom with myself and Luke. And of course, probably the hardest week to predict because you get a lot of games which like players get rested and all that kind of stuff happens. So Probably the hardest week to predict, as well as week 1. But you boys are hoping for a good week of predictions. And it starts on Saturday, where NFC, the AFC North gets confirmed, with both the Steelers and the Ravens playing to try and confirm who wins the AFC North and then who becomes the 5th seed. So first of all, we've got the Ravens taking on the Browns in Baltimore, and then the Steelers hosting the Bengals. Now, Ross, I'll give you the honours first. Who's winning the AFC North? The Pittsburgh Steelers or the Baltimore Ravens?
I think the Ravens. Will. I don't think they want to lose any kind of momentum, so I think they're just going to keep playing it. I don't see why they would rest people. I'm going to take the Ravens for that opening game of the weekend. And
then in terms of Steelers and Bengals, do you think Steelers will still get the win anyway, or do you think potentially if the Ravens were to beat the Browns and they confirm the AFC North, that they could potentially rest some players against the Bengals?
I just think, obviously, the Bengals are fighting to stay alive. Joe Burrow's not the kind of guy that's just going to kind of let that slip. So, and I also think the Steelers, a lot of people have kind of said they're what is it? Have they got, I think, 10 wins? Are they 10? Was it 11? Yeah. Kind of said that's maybe a bit, flattering. So I think it'll be Bengals. Again, I think it could be 30 plus points for the Bengals.
Yeah, I think personally, I think the Ravens actually are 11 wins, but I think the Steelers win. I think something that they get in or something like that. But I think personally, same as you, Ross. I think the Ravens win, and I think that means that as a result of that, I do think actually the Bengals may beat the Steelers, even if that was the first game. But I do think that if the Ravens confirm they've won the AFC North, I do feel like we would then see the Steelers resting players. So I think I'm going for the Ravens and the Bengals as well. Danny, who's winning these 2 games for you?
It's always hard to overlook the Ravens, to be completely honest with you. They're so glitzy compared to what I'm used to watching week in and week out. So I can't ever really go against Lamar. So Ravens for that one. But I'm going to go for Steelers for the other game, because regardless of the result in the Ravens game, the Steelers have just been such a steady team this season. By my expectations, they overachieving. They're always a reliable team, but they've really, really just outperformed what I was expecting. The quarterback change didn't affect them at all. They were steady before, and they've been brilliant afterwards as well. So I've got both teams on for wins, which is probably harsh on the Bengals and Burrow, but they've been questionable this season, to say the least.
So moving on to the 6 p.m. games, a few games, first of all, that mean less. We've got the fight for the 6th seed as the Commanders go to Dallas Cowboys and the Bears goes to the Packers. Both the Packers and Commanders fighting for that 6th seed in the NFC. Danny, we'll go back to you, Danny. Who wins out of the Cowboys and Commanders, and who wins out of the Bears and the Packers?
I'm going to go against the grain for the Cowboys and Commanders one. I'm going to go for the Cowboys. I do not know why. Sometimes you've just got to go with your gut, and I really am just falling to that. I think the Commanders are an exceptional team. Daniels is absolutely insane, which I saw firsthand last week against the Falcons. But the Cowboys seem to pull results out of the bag when they don't need them whatsoever, as they did against the Bucs a handful of weeks ago and things like that. So I think it'll just be another one of them games. The Commanders are in the playoffs. As far as they're concerned, that's all they'll be focused on, I think. So the fact that they've made it is an overachievement. So I'm going to go Cowboys in that game. And then, sorry, I've completely forgotten the other game. Hard to overlook the Packers in that one. Brilliant team. Jordan Love's been exceptional again. When they had those couple of weeks without him early on in the season, it looked like it was all going to fall apart. And then before he knew it, it was like nothing had ever changed. Bears are steady. Williams, I actually rate, but it seems like that franchise is a little bit catastrophic at times. They seem to love their own and then butcher their own immediately after. So I think Green Bay are probably going to take that one.
Fair play. Ross, how are you seeing these 2 games? Who wins them for you?
I see it as very straightforward for the the Commanders. I think the Commanders will deal with the Cowboys fine. I know the Cowboys did beat us a couple of weeks ago, but I just see that as routine. I love this. The Commanders' offense, the defense. I really like them this season, and they've got a really good shot of making a deep run in the playoffs. So I'm going to take the Commanders there, probably by about 15. The Packers one's interesting. I don't know, because I feel like Caleb Williams is due a result, but then are the Packers going to rest players? Because they don't have to win. I don't know the Packers one. I see where the argument is for Caleb Williams. Yeah, I'm going to take the Bears.
Interesting.
I'm going to take the Bears.
Well, I've gone for the Commanders to win. I think that if the Commanders were resting players, I think I'd have the Cowboys winning it. But I think they still will try. I think personally try and get that 6 seed just to try and ease that sort of, or just make some sort of easier road in the playoffs for them. And then Packers, I think Packers the same thing. I think they're my NFC pick at the start of the season. I'm sticking by them winning the NFC, so I think I'm going to keep the Packers rolling. I think I've had them every week winning. I think I've not had 1 week where I've had them losing game on my predictions. I think every week I've had them winning, maybe except for the Lions game. I'm not sure, but yeah, I'm a big fan of the Packers, what they're doing. I think the fact they got Malik Willis playing well shows how good the coaching is there. So I think the Packers win this, and I think they'll still get the 7th seed, but I think they'll be arguably the best ever 7th seed in NFL history. I can't think of many worse 7th seeds than that. You think about the contrast between them and maybe ourselves if we make it in, the Dolphins or other teams in the past who've been the 7th seed, and you see some wildcard games where it's just such a one-sided affair when the 2nd seed plays the 7th seed. I think this year, you think about whoever they play, it will be the Eagles. I think that'll be a tough game for a tough opposition for the Eagles. I think certainly they'll be fearing the Packers going into that game. Now moving on to other games. I mean, we've got a few games that are pretty irrelevant. I mean, you got the Jags hosts going to the Colts, Bills going to the Patriots, and the Giants going to the Eagles. Nothing. I mean, you could argue maybe that as well as Texans at Titans. The only thing really I can think of there really is to play for is stats-wise, certain players getting leading stats in certain areas. But I think also the race for the number 1 overall pick will certainly be in play for the Giants, the Patriots, and the Titans, and the Jags as well. All these teams looking for a potential future there by losing games. Not that they will want to try and lose a game, but fans might be secretly wanting to lose. So first of all, Jags at Colts. I'm going to give the win to the Colts. I just think that two teams, I think the Colts are just way better. I think the Colts have had their inconsistencies, but the Jags have been even worse. So I'm going to give the Colts win on that one. I'm going to give the Bills the win over the Patriots. I think that they're just too good. I mean, again, actually, the Bills might rest players. To be fair, I'm going to call an audible. I'm going to give the win to the Patriots. I think Bills will rest players. They've got that 2nd seed locked in. I think we'll see the Bills play the backup, like Mitch Trubisky, for example. I think the Patriots actually win this game. And then Giants at Eagles, I think Eagles still win. I think they've won games with a backup in Kenny Pickett. I think they'll get the win there. And I think the Titans actually beat the Texans. I think the Texans will once again, they're going to rest some players ahead of their wildcard game. They've already got the 4 seed locked in. And I think the Titans, I think they'll want to end the season on a high. They have probably more to fight for this game. Players probably fighting for their jobs. Coaches, the same thing. So I'm going to give the Titans a win over the Texans. Go back to you, Danny. First of all, Jags Colts, who wins?
That's one of those games that you probably don't watch as a neutral at this point in the season. But I'd lean towards the Colts for this one. The Jags have been, both teams have been rough, but the Jags have been really off the boil this year. So I think I'll just go with the Colts, but it could go either way, that one.
And then Bills Patriots?
Understand your logic based on resting players. I still think the Bills have too much for them. Even with a banged up defense and a few players coming in and out, I think the Bills will take the Patriots there. A bit of improvement from the Patriots over the second half of the season, but still not enough for the Bills, I don't think.
And then we got the Eagles hosting the Giants.
If the Giants from last week show up, which is very, very unlikely. They might actually make a game of it, but no, I'll go for the Eagles. I've not seen if Hurts is back. I was unsure about his thingy following concussion and everything, but they're set already, aren't they? But I'll still go for the Eagles. Just significantly better team, much more comfortable.
And finally, Texans at Titans.
I'll go with you on that one. I will go for the Titans on that one. I think the Texans can afford to just. I think they're probably a little bit shocked that they are where they are at the moment in time. Stroud is not being Stroud, so I think Titans can take that one.
Yeah, Drew Lock has had one of the big NFL memes did it, where they said all the things that happened as a result of Drew Lock's performance. It was something like he got Malik Neighbors to 1,000 yards, he got the Colts out of the playoffs, he potentially ruined the Giants' #1 overall pick. So I think he had a sort of performance that impacted about 4 or 5 different teams.
I'm sure I read, and I correct me if it's wrong, but it's the statistically best ever performance from a Giants quarterback in terms of rating and yardage and everything.
Wow.
Jeez Louise.
Which is hilarious based on the season that they've had. He thought, you know what, second to last game, I'll just show up completely today and ruin the #1 pick.
He done the same thing in Seattle last year.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
He actually balled out, and I was like, and then they let him. I thought Seattle keep him, but he wanted to go to the Giants to be a starter, and then
he's playing for his career, isn't he? Ultimately, even if you're a fan and you want your team to tank, even though I'm not a massive fan of the concept, he's never going to do it. He doesn't want a quarterback coming in, does he? He wants to stay.
No, definitely.
I think as well, these performances can almost, especially late on in the season where recency bias becomes a factor, a performance like that can get you a job somewhere. If a team could easily look at that and go, sometimes these players have gone to teams based on maybe 1 or 2 weeks. They see that, they got 100 pass receiving yards against this team, or they threw for 400 yards against that team. These players, and this is why I believe as well, that these players, well, I think whilst the owners, the GM, I think certainly might look to tank, players and coaches definitely won't, because you have an amazing performance on the final day. Teams could easily, see that and go, right, this guy's a good player, we'll get him in next year. It can get you a job. So, yeah, certainly, I think that's why I've gone for the wins for the Titans and the Patriots, because they're gonna, especially, you think about someone like Will Levis or Mason Rudolph. They're thinking, well, maybe more Will Levis, but they're thinking, why would I want to lose a game when you're gonna get a player who's gonna take over my job? Why? You think. Yeah, it's just if you think about the Cardinals last year, everyone was saying they're going to tank, get Caleb Williams. Murray had a decent season when he came back, and they're now nowhere near getting a new quarterback. So for me, I think these kind of things, these players will be fighting. I think that's why it is the hardest week to predict, because on paper they're the backups, they're the starters, and they're not doing very well. But at the end of the day, any Sunday these teams can win games. But I do feel like in this kind of week, especially when other teams do play backups, I think that's why it's probably the hardest one. I certainly wouldn't go down to any betting shops this week to bet on any NFL games.
Thank you.
Based on this, Ross, over to you first of all. Colts Jags, who wins the games for you?
Colts. I think the Jags are kind of been jagging this season. The Colts, if they get a win, it's not really going to affect the draft pick overall. For that kind of, I'm just going to. I would say Colts. It's kind of, as I said, irrelevant kind of game.
And then Patriots hosting the Bills.
I agree with you, Andy. I'm taking Patriots because I think Drake May is. He's no out. He's no on IR. I don't think. I don't know if I read something about
I've
that.
not actually checked the.
I'm assuming Drake May will be starting, and I think I can just I just think the Bills, they get banged up and they will definitely rest Cook, Shakir, Allen. I think that could very easily be a Patriots by quite a lot in a kind of practice kind of style game.
And then Eagles hosting the Giants.
Eagles, because I think Saquon's going to break that rushing record. I think he'll get at least 2 touchdowns. I get we're saying about Drew Lock. I think it could be a good game. It can kind of go anyway, but I'm going to take the Eagles.
And then finally, Texans hosting the Titans. Sorry, Titans hosting the Texans.
Titans. I think even at full strength, the Texans is the way they're playing the last half of the season. I think they'd struggle, so I'm going to say the Titans.
I said this actually in a week 17 review with Ollie Hope from Third and Long, is that I don't see them in any way possible winning a wildcard game. I think they'll be one and done. They'll be playing either the Ravens or the Steelers, whoever doesn't win the AFC North. And I think you think about that O-line up against TJ Watt or against that Ravens D-line, there's no way they can cope with that. And I think we'll see the Titans. I think you think about Texans, I think you'll see them have probably the worst defeat of the wildcard round. I think you always get that one game or two, like we've seen in previous years involving your Buccaneers, Ross, where you see some blowout games in the wildcard round. And I do feel like this could be one where, Texans play the Steelers, and particularly if it's the Ravens, I think the Ravens could absolutely put about 35 points on them, 35-10. They put 31 against 2 of them against them last week. So, I fear for them massively this year. I think they can prove their O-line, fair enough, they'll be fine. But other than that, I do fear for them if their O-line doesn't improve. So let's head to our final 2 6 p.m. games, which is the saving the best till last. It involves your 2 teams. It's the reason why I got you both on, as the Falcons and Buccaneers aim to try and win the NFC South. The Falcons host the Panthers, and the Buccaneers host the New Orleans Saints. Danny, we'll go to you first, as the team is the least chance out of the 2. First of all, how are you feeling about the games? How are you feeling about your chances, and do you think that you'll win your game and make the playoffs?
I do. I mean, I'll probably shoot myself in the foot saying this, but I think we'll beat the Panthers. Even though we've been inconsistent this year, when we've been good, we've actually been good. Our level of good is not Ravens good. It's not Steelers good, but we've been decent. The Panthers have shocked me in the second half of the season, to be honest. They've got some very good results, and since Bryce Young was dropped and picked back up, he's looked very, very good. And the player that he was signed to be. But even with that, they've not really got anything to play for. Their draft spot's not exceptional already, and nor can they achieve anything else. So I just think we'll have that little bit of grit in our teeth and get the win there. But ultimately, I don't think it matters. I think the Bucs win their game, and that's it. So I can't even blame anyone else. We had a 3-lead advantage in the division. The Bucs play against the Saints team that are busted up, injured. Kamara's not looking like he's going to be fit in time, even though there's a few rumours. Carr, the same principle. It's not going to be pretty for the Saints, I don't think. So I don't think our win will be null and void come the end of the night, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, you think about when the Falcons beat the Bucs, was it week 5 or week 4, where it was Thursday Night Football, where it was actually one of the games of the year, and it was that moment when they won the game where there was the vibes seemed immaculate in Atlanta. There was the Kirk Cousins was dancing around with the fans. It just seemed like normally I watch games on sort of NFL Game Pass, the late games, watch them in the morning, and normally when the game's done, that's it. You barely see them talking. The coverage is done and the download is finished. But that game, I remember seeing there was like an extra 5 minutes of them interviewing players. They were showing the fans. There was a real amazing feeling in Atlanta. And of course, we all saw Kirk Cousins' house being in recent weeks. We had 3 games without a touchdown. Of course, we all know he's been benched for Michael Penix Jr. Most likely he'll be probably cut at the end of the year. That's what they're saying he's going to be. Yeah. Obviously, massive story in off-season when you signed him for all that money, and then you took Michael Penix with the early draft pick. I think for a guy who started off so well in the first 4 or 5 weeks, it's just gone so badly wrong, isn't it, for Kirk Cousins in Atlanta?
It really has. Like you said, his start was not perfect, but reasonable. Our first game was against the Steelers, which was always going to be a little bit hit and miss because we know how good they are defensively. So fresh quarterback in a fresh team with a new scheme and everything. But after that, he just got better and better, strength to strength. October, throughout the entire month, statistically, he was in the top 5 quarterbacks in every single metric, in touchdowns, lack of interceptions, yards, everything. And then I do not know. I genuinely cannot comprehend what happened. You'd have expected him to get fitter and fitter and more mobile. Not mobile in terms of a running quarterback, but mobile in the pocket at least. Gone. Just it's like confidence just completely left him. It was such a drastic change, but I suppose it's a risk you take when you're signing a 36-year-old quarterback coming off the back of an Achilles injury into a franchise that isn't the most self-confident and isn't known for winning things and isn't known for maintaining leads and things like that. So I think it was just a bit of a cluster of bad circumstances altogether. And just to add salt to the wound, the first loss that we had in that stint of 4 losses consecutively was mine and the boys' trip to Atlanta to watch the Falcons play the Seahawks. And we got absolutely toasted. And then we lost the 3 games after that as well. So we've been getting a lot of slander saying it was our fault for going over.
Well, like I get the same thing. Like I've been to 6 Dolphins games in my life, 0-6 Dolphins games in person.
Oh, mate.
It's a disaster. It's it's just. I mean, I've seen this play a lot of good teams, but at the same time, it's like when you play against the Cardinals. I went to the Cardinals game this year in Miami. And you think about the Jags game in London where they hadn't won in like so long. It just seems like I'll never. When I saw that game early this year, I was thinking to myself, I'm never ever going to see us win a game in person because if we can't beat the Cardinals at home, that game should have been won. We were like 10 points clear at one point. We were winning at half time, which I'd actually not seen before, apart from in London, in the other sort of 6 games before that. And I thought that was the time. And then it's just been one loss after another. And when you lose to the Eagles at home, fair enough. You can solve. Oh, it's fair enough. You lost to the Eagles in Philly. I'm fine with that. It's what I expected, even if you were like 5-1 at the time, 5-2. But yeah, the Cardinals won when it all came. Really, part of it came from a botched fumble, like a very high snap from the center went over to his head. It's I feel like I'm some sort of jinx to the team. I don't know what it is, but hopefully it's not great. But
you've beat me on that
your
one.
sounds even more dramatic.
Jeez.
You beat me there. I saw the Falcons twice in London in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years. 1 win, 1 loss, and then went over to Atlanta and saw the other loss. So my ratio is not quite as bad as yours, and I pray that I do not catch you up at any point.
Well, there's one guy I saw on Twitter who went to the Bills game in Buffalo earlier this year when we lost to that field goal by Tyler Bass, and he is 0-16 at Dolphins games. He is a Detroit Lions in 2008 record. It's
oh my
how bad
God.
is that?
They should have posters of him in the stadium saying, "Do not allow in, like no entry, barred."
Oh my God.
Oh God, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. Going back to the games, I do think it is going to be the Buccaneers that win the division. I have the Buccaneers beating the Saints. I have the Falcons beating the Panthers. I think both teams will win, but I think the Buccaneers will ultimately get the job there and secure that division. But Ross, over to you. Who's winning the 2 games for you? Who's winning the NFC South?
Panthers to beat the Falcons.
Sorry.
Let me tell you why. Just because it'll be an absolute laugh. That's the only reason. No, I think Falcons should breeze through that. I was really impressed with Penix when I was watching. That's probably the best. He hadn't played a snap all season, had he? Or had they played some?
He'd played, from my recollection, he played 2 snaps because his first 2 snaps were when I was in Atlanta. But we were literally talking 4th quarter, less than 2 minutes on the clock, and just
I thought he was absolutely brilliant. I thought he was really good. I know the Falcons get a lot of flack for drafting him, but especially with the Kirk Cousins. But I don't see why you would cut Kirk. I don't know why you don't keep him. Because what happens if Penix gets injured and then you go and draft another? I do not see the reason. This is the issue with organisations like the Bears. You do not want to become that. You sit on it, you pay him the money that you're going to pay him, and that guy's experience in the division. He's one of the oldest quarterbacks in the league. He's got a lot of experience. You lean on that. You use him in teaching Penix.
Yeah.
I wouldn't see why you would cut him, but I think the Falcons should win that pretty easy. That Saints team is in just absolute disarray. There's barely enough players to cover a snap. It is ridiculous, and I've got this horrible feeling that we go and do something really stupid, and by halftime we're struggling in offense, and I think it'll be fine, but I think it's going to be a tough watch.
I don't think it's going to be.
I don't think exactly. I don't think it's going to be like Sunday there. I just have a weird feeling about it because it feels like Sunday was so nice, and then with the Commanders, it just felt like it all went so good. But I think the Bucs will win it. But I think it could be a field goal or like a touchdown in the last two. Like I don't necessarily think it will be a blowout. And obviously, Mike Evans needs 85 yards, and he gets his 1,000 yards, and if he gets 5 receptions as well, he gets a $3 million bonus. So watch out for Baker to Evans.
Yeah, I mean Mike Evans is. I think he's not had a season without 1,000 yards. I think since high school. They're saying so. He'll be very keen to get that, and I think he is surely a Hall of Famer. And I think Baker. I've absolutely loved his transformation in his last 2 years. I mean, we'll go on to Sam Darnold later on, but Baker Mayfield, they're both in Carolina at one point, and right now I bet they wish they had both of them there. I mean, Baker Mayfield has been so good. I mean, I think getting the 1 year, $4 million last year was sort of evidence that maybe the Buccaneers didn't really think he's a long-term answer. And now he's got his new deal and he's seemingly faced the franchise, and he's been, I don't think he's ever been a top 5 quarterback, but I think he's been really, really good. And I think he's been perfect as the Tom Brady replacement.
So if you look at his deal, he is on half the money that Kirk Cousins is on with I think it's a year less. Kirk's 4 year, $200 million. Baker's $100 million 3 years. It's insane. But that's only like 17 million, like kind of varied secretary, but to 50. But I just think it's such a bargain, and I know for a fact when it comes for a renewal or you need to restructure, he will have to get more. But like the big thing has been the drafting. Like just Jason liked the GM has just been phenomenal. I mean, Tyke Smith has been great. Like Braswell had a good game on Sunday. Devin Culp really got his first kind of snaps of the season. He got some yards. Obviously, the way they've worked it with Baker. I'm a bit nervous about Godwin at the end of the season and getting into the kind of off season because he's out of contract and his age. But I would like Godwin to come back. I think we could win the division. Don't know what will happen in the playoffs. It's kind of up in the air. We've beat the Lions before this season. We've beaten the Eagles this season. So, and then we beat the Lions in Detroit as well. So, like, it's not unheard of that if we got to maybe the championship game and it was Lions v Bucks in Detroit. It's a replay of last year, but also early in the season. So I'm pretty confident about it in terms of like it'll be a tough watch. But I think Bucks win. Falcons probably by about 25.
I hope that is the case, but it'd be even more frustrating knowing that it is ultimately our own fault that you've won the division. Not that you don't deserve it. Whoever wins the most games deserves it. But 4 losses on the bounce mid-season to teams, and all 4 of those games should not have been losses on paper.
No,
all you had to do was win 1 or 2 of them, and just kept the pace with you at the time. But
would you want Raheem Morris sacked if we take the division?
No, I'd like to think I'm a little bit more of an optimistic fan than quite a lot. I'd be contemplating Terry Fontenot's job as GM. He's had quite a while now, and his policy is best player available, which is absolutely fine. But then you look at what those players have actually achieved on paper, and it's very, very hit and miss. Bijan Robinson, excellent pick, fair enough, can't discredit that. Michael Penix, hopefully a hit, but far too early to see. Kyle Pitts, we didn't really need a tight end that year. We could have just gone for someone steady. used the number 4 pick on him.
Every time we play you, Kyle Pitts is like the best tight end in the league
somehow. But every other game, he's basically null and void.
He loves playing the Bucs, man. It kills me every time.
Yeah, so I'm not Morris out yet. I think there's been some very, very questionable play calls and timekeeping throughout the season. However, it's new coaching staff. He's been a coach for quite a long time on and off in various teams and offensive, defensive, overall and everything. But the two underneath him, it's adjustment. I'm fine with that. I'll allow it. But it doesn't mean that this season hasn't been a failure. We should have won the division. That's categorically true. That we
absolutely agree with the amount of games you were in the lead by. I'm very happy, but like it's unbelievable.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's a strange one, but we only have ourselves to blame. And I'm as much as it hurts, I can't be annoyed because it's our own fault. So. Just have to crack on and pray that the Saints would, for some reason, choose to do us, their rivals, a favour in the final week of the season. Seems very unlikely, but you never know.
For me, it would be probably the worst defeat in franchise history for the Bucs. And I am not exaggerating with that. That Saints team is dreadful. They do not have players. They are. I just can't explain. I just don't know. Maybe I'll be fine. Maybe when the game will start, we'll have an opening drive touchdown, and I'll be relaxed. But like, I'm just getting at the game going. It's not possible to lose this game, but I just have this horrible feeling. It's going to be a long week.
It will be. It will be. However, I think we'll know the vibe within the first quarter. If we're winning, fine, whatever. But I either anticipate turning Red Zone on and seeing Bucs are 28-0 up or something along those lines. At which point, I will just accept my fate because
I'll give you some hope then. I think it was before the week 16 games, or maybe just that. I think it was before the week 16 games. The Bucs, if you broke down the scores per quarter for all the games this season, and you've done for the Q1, all the points you've scored in Q1 for the whole season, and all the points you've conceded in Q1. In Q2, the second quarter, we were minus 81.
God,
like by far the worst in the league.
A really strange stat line.
Maybe wait until the halftime before you go all there,
just in case,
because that Q2 could be a disaster. So
that's something to bear in mind. I will use that on our Falcons socials tonight.
Well, moving on to the latest slate in the NFL. Now we go from the situation with your teams in the playoffs. Now it's time for my team, it's the Dolphins, as well as the Broncos, fight out for that last AFC wildcard spot. The Broncos, hosting the Chiefs, and the Dolphins traveling to the Jets. Now, I mentioned that I was 0-6 Dolphins games. I'm going to be at this game on Sunday. I'm going to New York for a prize birthday gift for my girlfriend. So
amazing.
This should be the one where I finally end the streak of 0-6. But you watch, I'll finally see us win a game, and we'll still go out the playoffs. So,
did you post this on? Was it Twitter or did you post this on TikTok or Twitter or something?
Yeah, Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've seen it, and then you said that, and I'm like, oh, that's so weird. I seen another guy get. Oh, it was you. I never realised it was you.
Yeah, that was me. I mean, yeah, it's if we can't beat the Jets with the way our form's been at the moment and how bad the Jets have been, I don't think I'll ever see us win a game in person. But we've got to hope on Carson Wentz doing us a favour. That's the conundrum we have, and I'm going to go for a Broncos win and a Dolphins win. I'll go for a Chiefs win and a Dolphins win. I think the Chiefs are going to do us a favour. Now I want to cast your minds back to 2019 when we were playing the Patriots. Nothing to play for. Patriots were battling out with the Chiefs for the second seed in the AFC.
Yeah.
Ryan Fitzpatrick and Mike Gesicki combined for a late touchdown to win the game in Foxborough as well with 20 seconds left. And that got the Chiefs the number 2 seed and the bye. Back then they were bye for the second seed, and they went on and won the Super Bowl in Miami. So I think Andy Reid will know this. I'm sure he'll be thinking about this. I think he'll want to pay us back in some way. So I think Reed could take this game really seriously. Rest some players still. I think team comes first, but I think they're going to want to win this game. And I think Reed is going to have something dialed up to try and also end the divisional rival season and help us out after we helped them out all those years ago. So I'm hoping for a repeat of history here, and I'm going to go for a Dolphins win and a Chiefs win. I think either way, I think I'm happy with how the season's ended. I think to go 2-6 and then still be within a playoff hunt now is really impressive. 6-2 in the last 8 games. So I think that whilst it's probably be Tyler Huntley, I think against this Jets team, I think will be fine. I wouldn't want to play Tyler Huntley against the Bills in the wildcard round, which is what it'll be if we win. But I think certainly in this game, I would be fine with it. Give Tua a week off. And yeah, I have confidence that A-Chain may have a day. It may be, I think, a defensive day again. I think the likes of Jalen Ramsey could roll back the years, or I don't know, Javon Holland or Zach Sealer could be the guys to stand out. But I'm confident. I'm quietly confident of a win. I think we'll win. I think that's something I'm confident about. But I'm quite confident we're actually going to. I think Chiefs are 8.5 underdogs. So I think they're certainly, not expected to win. But I have this feeling that Carson Wentz and the Andy Reid coaching rather than Doug Peterson's, I think that he will get the job done. I think it'll be a tight game. I think it could be one of those days where, our game's finished. We're waiting for them to finish their game. But I think it's going to be tight. I think it'll be a field goal to win it, potentially, or 1-point win or something like that. But I have faith in Carson Wentz. Danny, back to you. Who wins these 2 games for you?
It's a really bizarre set of scenarios, isn't it? Because any other game week, the Chiefs and the Broncos, even though the Broncos have been brilliant, you'd be like, oh, Chiefs all day long. Like, why not? But with them having that top spot already, I just think, though, Chiefs' rotation doesn't necessarily make them that much weaker. They're just so good. They just genuinely are that good that I think I'm still going to go Chiefs for that game. I don't see you having a problem against the Jets. I really don't. I don't know what's gone on there. I don't know how you spend all that dough on Aaron Rodgers. You're losing for a season, which is really unfortunate. And then when you do get him back, it looks like he doesn't know where his players are and they don't know where he is, and it just all falls apart. So if you don't see your first win, I am so sorry. You're definitely never going to see one. That's absolutely spot on. But no, I'm going to go for Chiefs to beat the Broncos, which would then put it back onto yourselves and the Bengals, wouldn't it? So it's a little bit of a close one. I go for the Bengals to beat the Steelers. Oh, did I go against them? I can't even remember now.
Yeah, you went for the Steelers.
Yeah, so that would have you in there, wouldn't it? Which would not be too bad of a birthday trip, I suppose.
Yeah, considering I'm also a Liverpool fan and we're playing Man U that same day, I'm going to be watching that in a bar before going down to MetLife. If I can see that Liverpool beat Man U, hopefully Arsenal and Chelsea drop points as well, and then on top of that, us beat the Jets and the Broncos lose the Chiefs, I think that would be,
You better get a bet on.
I mean, it'll be the birthday of all birthdays. I mean, my birthday's on the Tuesday, so it's on a Sunday, so it'll be the perfect sort of early birthday present for me to see that. That'll be quite the day.
Well,
I think it would make up for. So I think it would make up for all of my previous losses. I think it'll be sort of as Queen said, I paid my dues, and now I think I'll do a due. It all comes down into one cocktail of joy.
Oh, lovely. Well, I didn't know that you're a Liverpool fan until right now. So just to flip side that a little bit, I'm a Manchester United fan. So not only are we going to get beat 7-0, that game overlaps with the Falcons game, which will probably get beat by the Panthers, and the Bucs will probably lose just to make it funnier. So then they'll still go through, even though it was in our control. So that's going to be my Sunday compared to yours.
Oh, it could be the day of all days, or it could be the worst day of all days. But it should be exciting. And what I could be seeing as well is Rodgers' last ever game of his career. There's all these talk about retirement. I could be there for a bit of history. I was there for Tom Brady's one of his only last games ever at Foxborough in 2019. But I think I could be there for his last ever career game.
That would be something, to be fair. It's a shame that if it is to be the case, it's a shame that it's happening in this manner.
No, it's not. It's great.
See, one of my co-hosts has that attitude as well, where he's not a massive Rodgers fan, but whether you like the person, he's a great in the sport, and it's a shame.
He's not a great in the sport.
Like that.
He's not a great in the sport.
How is he not?
He is
top. He's got to be top 20 of all time, and that's me being
top 25. If you give in the next 5 years the development of Lamar and Josh Allen and boys like that, he then goes right out of the top 25. He's fine. He's a bell end. This has been a great season. I've been hate watching the Jets every week, and it has not failed to deliver. It's been fantastic. And on the other pod that I do, the Gridiron Crew, they all know that I absolutely hate the Jets, and I hate watching the Jets because he's gone in there as GM and quarterback, and he does everything. He's got the keys to the building, and I do not understand why they'd let a 41-year-old guy who obviously last season got injured a couple of snaps into the season and they was out for it. But I don't understand what thinking. They go, he must know best. He doesn't know best. He's only serving his self-interest. He's not. He's done. He's past it. I hope he retires, and then he can keep phoning into Pat McAfee and saying, these guys in ESPN and giving their opinion. They don't know anything. And it's just like, you don't know anything. Like, you are... I won't get us cancelled, but...
Are you sure you're not a Bears fan, Ross?
Not at all. There's a few it's mainly Rodgers, but I don't like a lot about the Jets in general. They've just always been terrible since I've watched the sport, and I don't really get them. And I hate the fact that they play in New Jersey and they're called the New York. It's the same with the Giants. I've got the same issue with the Giants. Like,
Joe, I will say one thing is that Buffalo is the only technically New York team, but apparently it's a 7-hour drive to get from Buffalo to New York City. It's only about 30 minutes on the subway to get from the Empire State Building to MetLife. That's what I did when I went there last time. So nice. I do know what you mean. Like they should be called the New Jersey Jets. I do agree with that.
Maybe that sounds so much better.
It does.
That sounds so much better.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I wouldn't. I think New York Giants are better. I think maybe you can move them. I think they used to play at the Yankee Stadium. I think they could maybe move the stadium there and have MetLife purely for the Jets. But I do feel like it is. I do get what you mean, but I think also it's not that far from New York. And but
no, I know it's pedantic, but like, and I've had this resentment every week, just gets stronger and stronger. And it's mainly Aaron Rodgers' fault, but it's not really just his fault. And that just came out, so I can only apologise.
It's all good. I mean, I have more issues. The fact that the whole East-West North thing really bugs me because the Cowboys are on the South of America. They should be in the NFC or AFC South. And the same with the Dolphins should be. It should have the Titans should be on the east side. Why are they the South? I don't know. I think there should be. I wouldn't be against the realignment. I do kind of think if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I wouldn't be against them realigning.
Well, they've done it previously, haven't they? Like you just said then. So yourselves, the Dolphins to Miami, it's like 6 or 7 hours. We're neighbours as far as America goes. You're so close to us. So why are you playing up the coast and we're playing into the centre? It makes no sense to me at all, but it's a strange one.
It should be Dolphins. It should be Dolphins, Bucks, Jags, Texans, Cowboys, and New Orleans, all within, and Atlanta as well, all in the South Division. It should be that. I don't believe it should be the way it is, but that's for another
day. However, I think Ross gave you his answer to the Dolphins and Jets result in that big monologue there. So
no, because if you're playing with Tyler Huntley, then it's still going to be a Jets win.
Oh, really? You think Jets are going to win?
No, not at all. But I do think the Dolphins have been so. I know you've had injuries, I know Tua and stuff, but like I thought you would have kicked on this season and been the Ravens. How the Ravens have been that star-studded wide receiving unit, great tight end. Like it's been kind of uninspired. I think I really hope you see the one. But I don't think it would harm you to miss the playoffs because all that's going to happen in the playoffs is what's going to happen to the Texans. You're going to play one game, you're going to lose it.
You never know. You never know. You never know.
You were so confident with the Texans. You're like, yeah, they are 100% losing if they beat and the first round of the playoffs. Wow, the Dolphins.
Yeah, it's that biasness of being a fan. I hope that kills you, isn't it? Every week.
I don't know what you're on about. I have a lovely, completely easy run with the Falcons all the time.
So, Ross, finally for you, predictions-wise for these two games, Jets or Dolphins and Broncos or Chiefs?
With the Chiefs, it's very interesting because it would be so good if Carson Wentz came in and had like a 400-yard game, and the Chiefs were amazing, even when resting people. And because then Twitter would be like, he has to start the playoffs. Mahomes hasn't been at it this season. Look what Wentz can do, and it would cause this close. I can see it, but I think that Broncos team is fantastic. The Broncos done us, I think, week 3. They beat us after we beat the Lions. That Broncos team is very good. The run game is shocking. They cannot run the ball, but they are a very good team. So I think the Broncos will win it, but the Chiefs are the Chiefs. Like, you can't stop them sometimes.
No. The Chiefs haven't even been brilliant this season. They've been good. They've been much better in the last 2 or 3 weeks, but throughout the season they've been fine.
Every game I've watched, they've been on prime time quite a lot in Christmas. Every game I've watched has been fine. It has been a game of egg toss. It's the NFL. That is the best I could say about it. Apart from when they blocked the field goal against the Broncos, and you go, oh, that's a bit of excitement. That's crazy. How do the Chiefs do it? But I've really not been impressed them this season. But I think they're just saving it for the playoffs, probably.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think whilst I said it before, those I'm convinced it's Lamar Jackson's year. I see it being him or Josh Allen winning the NFC. I don't think the Chiefs beat Bills or the Ravens come playoffs, but I think certainly they'll be probably in the AFC Championship game. Certainly, yeah, they'll be absolutely fine, and they could easily prove you wrong. I wouldn't be shocked if they go on and win the whole thing, but I'm not that convinced on them either. We are running low on time, but I'll quickly go through 3 probably meaningless games before we go on to our big game at the end. We've got
and I was Dolphins as well. Sorry. Dolphins.
Oh I kind of forgot. It was your Rodgers rant. It was obvious. So we've got Rams hosting the Seahawks, Raiders hosting the Chargers, and the Cardinals hosting the Niners. I've got wins for the Niners, Chargers, and Seahawks. I think Rams will rest players. I think the Chargers will be fighting for the 6th seed. Fighting for the 5th seed, and the Raiders are pony. And the Cardinals, Niners, both teams nothing to play for. But I was somewhat convinced with how the Niners performed against the Lions. So give me the Niners, Chargers, and Seahawks. Danny, who's winning those 3 games for you?
Niners, Chargers, and Rams for me. I'm afraid after what I've seen this season from the Seahawks live, I can't root for them at any point, so I can't say that they're going to win. So I'm going to go for the Rams, even though I do agree with you that they'll probably be resting up a little bit. Rams have got to take that one.
And then finally, you, Ross, those 3 games, who wins?
The good thing, the Rams game has implications for Tampa or Atlanta as well, because if the Rams lose and if Tampa win, we take the 3rd seed. So it's actually, people are saying about resting. I don't necessarily know if they will rest heavily. I think if it looks like it's going to be a bit of a slog, they might start hooking people. I think they'll start with a stronger team and then they'll see how it's going. If they go 14 up, I think they just start hooking people as well. So I'm going to take the Rams. I'm going to take the 49ers because Purdy's getting paid. He want to get some yards, get some touchdowns. And who was the 3rd game? I've blanked already.
Chargers, Raiders.
Raiders are terrible. Chargers.
Fair. So finally, our Sunday night football game, the final game of the regular season. And what a game it is. You've got 2 14-3 teams battling out for not only the 1 seed, but also the NFC North as the Vikings travel to the Detroit Lions. I mean, what a game this is going to be. I mean, how lucky do you have to be on 14 wins in week 18? First of all, you haven't turned up the division, and also you could be the 5th seed. It's quite... Both these teams just the thing is, there's the three best records in the NFL, both in the same division. What again is it going to be? You've got the Lions team who've been amazing all year: Jared Goff, Amari St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs. Then you've got the Vikings team: Justin Jefferson, Sam Darnold, Jordan Addison, Brian Flores defense, Ben Johnson offense, Dan Campbell. It's going to be a hell of a game, and am I going to get my girlfriend to watch this game with me? I hope so, because I've already she's already bought the tickets for the Jets game. Is she going to watch NFL game in a bar? Who knows? But hopefully I can convince her. But it should be quite the game. I'm so excited for it. I'm going to go first, actually. I'm going to go for the Vikings. I think that the Lions' injuries, I think the Lions' defense has been so leaky in recent weeks. Think about the Bears game on Thanksgiving. They almost let that slip. 31 points given up against the Packers, 40-odd points given up against the Bills, and against the Niners team. Even though that last touchdown was in garbage time, they still let out 30-odd points. Injuries galore on that defense, and I think the Vikings are going to nick that number one seed in the NFC, and they'll win the NFC North. Ross, shaking your head there. I'm guessing you're going Lions.
Actually, this is... I just think everyone wins. I don't know if there is a winner of the game. I think everyone wins. This could be... I'm off work on the Monday. This could be... This could be incredible. This could be a really, really good game. I think what you've said about the Lions defense is correct. But when Ben Johnson calling plays, you don't know what the Lions are going to do. They had a flea flicker that never worked the other night. Jameson Williams got it, and he kind of ran out of time. He had to hit the ground. You never know what they're going to do. I think the Vikings are great, but I think the Lions will feel that they earned that number one seed, and they should have had it, closed it by now. So I think they're going to go really hard to get it, because they know it gives them an extra week off. And it means if they do get bashed up a wee bit, they've got recovery time. And by that point, when the game comes, the Vikings could already be at the playoffs. So I'm going to take Lions, but I just want to see touchdown. Like the 49ers game, it was incredible.
I still don't know why he played the starters that game. The team that had the bye week in week 5, I'm so shocked that I can see why, because he's that kind of guy. He gets emotional, gets involved. But I think, personally, when this game, if you'd won the game or lost the game, it wouldn't have mattered. A win in week 18 gets you in the number one seed. I don't know why Dan Campbell didn't. And he's lucky that they had no injuries. If they'd lost Jahmyr Gibbs or St. Brown or Goff or anyone else in that defense, there'd have been, a lot more questions asked about why he played the starters, and even why he didn't take them off after a certain point in the game earlier. I think they have to get, if they don't get the number one seed and they go into that wildcard round with no rest again, that's going to ultimately, I think, halt them and cost them in the playoffs. I think if they have a week off, that might be all they need to get that bit of freshness. But I think if they lose this game and get the 5th seed, I think they could be in a bit of trouble, personally. But Danny, who are you going for the win?
I've got an internal conflict here, because at the start of the season, I had the Lions on to win the Super Bowl. So in theory, I should say the Lions, because it'd give them an easier route to the Super Bowl. But I think the Vikings win. I think the Lions are a more exciting team, but I think the Vikings are a steadier team. And if you told me that Sam Darnold has done what Sam Darnold has done this season, I would not have believed you in a million years. So I'm going to go for the Vikings to win it. But by saying that, I am taking away the likelihood of the Lions winning the Super Bowl, which is something that I've backed for the last 17 weeks. So there's an issue. There's an internal issue here.
So that's actually one thing I want to ask you guys as well, is about your Super Bowl predictions. I'm sticking with mine from the off-season, Ravens, Packers. Ross, which two teams do you think are going to make the Super Bowl in February?
Well, I got 33-1 on around week 4 or 5 that the Bills and the Lions would meet in the Super Bowl.
Ooh.
It was, the last time I checked, it was 71. So I think the only thing I think the Bills have got an issue with is they don't have a wide receiving unit that is top tier. Do they need it when you get Josh Allen, who's running, receiving, and throwing the ball? You know what I mean? I don't know. I think that's the most likely matchup, but in my opinion. But I'd love to see it Tampa. I'd love to see Tampa there. I just don't know if it's too early.
I absolutely love Baker Mayfield. I would love it to be him against Derrick Henry. Big fan of Derrick Henry. I would love that to be it. I want Vikings Ravens because of the Sam Darnold story and again Derrick Henry. But I wouldn't be against. But as long as it's not the Chiefs, I don't really care who's in the Super Bowl. Obviously, the Chiefs or the Bills. I don't want the Bills being there, but certainly, if it could be not the Chiefs, not the Bills, anyone else, I'd be happy with. Danny, still the Lions?
So on paper throughout the season, I've gone Chiefs v Lions. Really boring, I know. Pretty bookies' favourite sort of stuff. But based on the fact that I now think that the Vikings will beat the Lions for this show's purposes only, I will then say that it's going to be Bills Commanders. Just something completely different. Spice it up. I'm just looking now and I'm thinking, I'm bored of it. So if I can't have my original Chiefs v Lions, I've had the Bills hovering as a second shout for a long time, and they really are, like you've said, very, very good. Don't think the Rams have got it. I don't think the Vikings could go all the way. The Eagles are a little bit banged up, and to be honest, not the biggest fan of them. Not too bothered about the Packers, so I've whittled it down to Commanders, which leaves Bills and Commanders. I don't know who would win that. I have no idea, because it'd be so random that it just shouldn't happen, but yeah.
One thing I would love to see, actually, I'm not wishing injury on anyone. That's something I want to put out there. But I would love to see Chiefs against Eagles, and I would love to see. I imagine if it's Kenny Pickett.
Yeah,
Hurts is still injured. He does make the game. It's another backup for the Eagles in the Super Bowl, and then for some reason Mahomes gets injured in the NFC title game. Carson Wentz against his former team, two backups playing in the game. That would be. Like a few years ago, we almost got Blake Bortles against Case Keenum. It's that kind of thing. I would love to see that where it's just two, or even like obviously Tyler Huntley against someone like, I don't know, or JJ McCarthy comes back from the death like the Undertaker, and he comes on the field and he's recovered from his injury. But and I think it should be a great occasion and a great Super Bowl again. But I don't want it to be Chiefs, and I think if it's Chiefs, I'd be even more annoyed if it was Chiefs Niners again. I do not want to see Chiefs Niners again in the Super Bowl. I've seen it twice already in the last 5 years. I do not want to see a Chiefs Niners game.
You just said though the Chiefs and Eagles. That was a couple of seasons ago.
Yeah,
so you can't see. Do I see it again?
That's the Carson Wentz thing. I wouldn't want it if it was Jalen Hurts and Mahomes, but I want it to be Carson Wentz against Kenny Pickett.
Okay.
But that is where we'll end our Week 18 review. So once again, huge thank you for both Danny and Ross for coming on.
Thanks for having
us.
So first of all, Ross, you mentioned your podcast, Gridiron Crew. How can we find that and yourself on socials?
It's just Gridiron Crew on kind of X or Twitter, whatever you call it. And I don't have Instagram or anything. I'm like the worst person to ask for, like, where can you find me? And so I have no idea. Type in Gridiron Crew, it'll probably come up. I'm just kind of on the fringes. It's my first full season. And so I'm like kind of lurking. I come on for the occasional preview on a Thursday. Like, so I'm just here. Like, I don't know where to find this.
And Danny, where can you find yourself and also Atlanta Falcons UK on socials?
Absolutely, mate. So me personally, I am First Down Danny on TikTok and over on X. I literally just talk rubbish about every single team and share my very brazy opinions, which, as you know from this show, are quite outlandish. And if you're a Falcons fan, which you're probably not, we are ATL Falcons UK on X, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, the works. And we do a live show every Monday, and then it goes up on all the YouTube and streaming services the same day. But yeah, come say hi.
Great stuff. Yeah, do check it out, both their work if you can. Before we go, we all went for wins for the Ravens, Falcons, Colts, Eagles, Buccaneers, Titans, 49ers, Dolphins, and Chargers. Whereas me and Ross went for wins for the Bengals over the Steelers. Danny went for the Steelers. Myself and Ross went for the Commanders. Danny went for the Cowboys. Myself and Danny went for the Packers. Ross went for the Bears. Me and Ross went for the Patriots. Danny went for the Bills. Me and Danny went for the Chiefs. Ross went for the Broncos. And then also myself went for the Seahawks. And Ross and Danny went for the Rams. And then myself and Danny went for the Vikings over the Lions. And Ross went for the Lions. That is our Week 18 preview with myself, your host, Andy Davis, our guests today, Ross and Danny, and we'll see you guys to review Week 18.